Hey guys, well, Disney and Universal have just now decided to sue Midjourney. Now, they are suing Midjourney under the pretense that you can generate images with Midjourney that contain copyrighted Disney and Universal characters, and they're saying that Midjourney is effectively committing piracy slash copyright infringement by doing this sort of thing. Now, this is a very heavy and dicey subject. The subject of AI and copyright infringement is certainly one that is a heated discussion. It is a very heated subject. We're going to go ahead and get into it in today's video. Let's get right into it. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and look at this article by BBC. Disney and Universal sue AI for Midjourney over images. They're suing the AI giant, which with the allegation that it is, quote, a bottomless pit of plagiarism, which is a very, very strong word. The two studios claim that Midjourney's tool makes innumerable copies of characters, including Darth Vader from Star Wars, Frozen's Elsa, and the Minions from Despicable Me. It is a part of the entertainment industry's ongoing love-hate relationship with AI, which is certainly true. The entertainment industry is indecisive about the technology, to put it simply. They can't really decide whether or not they like it or hate it, and this doesn't even go with just the entertainment industry. Basically, any industry that makes some kind of copyrighted work, the video game industry, news, whatever it may be, they all kind of they're just kind of on the whole thing. Namely because AI works off of other creations, and they're like, our creations might be a bit stolen with this. I don't exactly like it. Now you may be wondering, fair use? Wouldn't this fall under fair use? Because some people will generate AI images and have them have characters doing certain interesting things. Maybe you could classify that as fair use. There's an argument to be made. A law professor that the BBC hired, I think, said that, in this article anyways, that a lot of the images that Midjourney produces seem to be copies of copyright characters that may be in new locations or with a new background, and he added that it doesn't seem like they're being transformed in a creative or imaginative way. Now, some of this is kind of questionable as to where I guess restitutions would fall on. The whole copyright and AI debate is a loaded one that, quite frankly, has very, very, very little resolve to it. Is it the company's fault? Is it the person who's generating its fault? Or like who's at fault here? Who's like breaking copyright law? Is copyright law even being broken in the first place? It's a debate that's been going on for a long time. Now, admittedly, it's not necessarily like Midjourney put a bunch of Disney movies into their training set. At least that's not the allegation being made here, not as far as I can tell. So it's not like they intentionally went out and made sure that it could replicate Disney movies with like perfect precision. But also keep in mind here that people like to screenshot a lot of images of like movies and stuff, or make their own interpretations of characters and whatnot under fair use and things like that. So it's entirely possible that it could have just picked up on this concept. It's not that Midjourney went out of their way to specifically ensure that you could generate Darth Vader. It just picked up on the concept of what Darth Vader was and was like, oh, I can make Darth Vader. It's dicey. This whole discussion is dicey, and this isn't the only big AI copyright lawsuit. The New York Times is currently in the middle of suing OpenAI because they apparently used a lot of New York Times content in their data sets. Now, here's what I will say. When it comes down to that lawsuit in particular, OpenAI did, with at least some intention, include New York Times articles in their training data set. It was made by another company. If the data set was made by another company, it would it would make a little more sense for OpenAI to maybe have not noticed it, because admittedly these data sets are quite big. These data sets are within the terabytes of size. For reference, the Holy Bible is like 4.2 megabytes. Moby Dick is 1.2 megabytes. There's a bunch of large books that file size wise aren't that big. You can name any book you want. The entire Harry Potter series is probably no more than like 10, 20 megabytes. The entire Warrior Cat series is probably no more than like 50. You could name any book series you want from any genre, and chances are, or just individual book, and chances are it's not going to be that big. So we're talking about terabytes of text here, and a terabyte, for reference, is 1,000 gigabytes, and a gigabyte is 1,000 megabytes. So when you put that into perspective, that's a lot of data. So if it was OpenAI who was using some data set made by somebody else, okay, they probably just didn't notice. That's not entirely their fault. Maybe you could say negligence. And by the way, I do want to say I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a law professional. Take this with a grain of salt. This is just opinion. You could claim negligence, but would it be entirely their fault? No. But from what I've gathered, OpenAI does make their own data sets, so they did this with some intention. Was Midjourney intentionally putting Disney things in their data sets? No, probably not necessarily. They might have been scraping websites for fair use images, and sometimes fair use images can contain characters or individuals who are important. This can happen. And admittedly, that might have been what ended up happening here. Somebody could take a photograph of like Comic-Con, and maybe, just maybe, it will find Darth Vader in the background there. It's iffy as to how it could have happened and how this could have gotten there. And chances are, and again, I do want to point out, the data sets for images are even bigger than the data sets for LLMs, mostly because, well, we're dealing with images here. So it's even harder to sift through the content. If you have, like, the authorization to just go ahead and scrape an entire website, which has, like, a bunch of images, like, let's say you were allowed to scrape Imgur, and you were allowed to go there and get all the photos, all the descriptions, all the everything, and build an AI image generator. Would you be specifically looking for an infinite, like, innumerable list of characters from different franchises just to ensure you're in the right copyright-wise? Probably not. And admittedly, it's such a monotonous task that it's frankly kind of impossible to do. You can't just make this giant copyrighted characters blacklist. That's not possible because there's so many characters by so many different companies. So it's a difficult discussion, and that's not even getting into the whole discussion as to whether or not AI generated content falls under current copyright law. We never made copyright law or the Digital Millennium Copyright Act under the pretense that we would have this technology in the first place. So it's a hard call. It's a very hard decision to make. And this is one of many lawsuits. And admittedly, Disney's lawyers are, like, vicious. They're about as vicious as Nintendo's lawyers. So, you know what? They might actually win this case and get restitutions from Midjourney. It wouldn't surprise me, because Disney's lawyers, the Mickey Mouse people, have fangs. They will bite you. But even then, any AI lawsuit, no matter how much money you have, is going to be a hard one. Not necessarily to win, but just in the question of who's in the legal right and who's in the legal wrong, because that hasn't fully been decided upon yet. It really hasn't. And it's it's tough. It genuinely is. This is just one of the things that we have to face currently when it comes down to AI is we don't know how it should play with copyright. We don't. We frankly don't. Now, one thing I will say is that I will admit Midjourney probably should have blacklisted at least some of the popular characters. I'm not saying that Midjourney needs to go through and specifically block out like every copyrighted character in existence, because that's fundamentally impossible. That's one of the problems with AI that there isn't going to be much of a solution for ever. I can understand Disney getting mad, but if Midjourney goes out and generates an image using one of the characters from like an old Disney Channel series or something, but like would the Midjourney people know about like a character from like Fish Hooks or something, like that old Disney Channel animated show from God knows how long? No, they would not. So it's not like you can blacklist out all like copyrighted characters, but you can blacklist out some of the popular ones, and admittedly, it's kind of Midjourney's fault that they didn't, because a lot of other image generation platforms do specifically check for things like Darth Vader, or like popular characters like that, or Mario, or stuff like that, to prevent you from generating those characters. And admittedly, yeah, Midjourney probably should have done that. They probably should have. So, admittedly, kind of their fault on that one. Kind of their fault. They should have, they didn't, and they got sued. Whoops. But it does open the question, like I said previously, of how AI plays with copyright. And I'm certainly not going to be the one to make any kind of decision on that or any kind of comment on that, because unfortunately I'm not really a lawyer, and this is such a complex question that I don't even think most lawyers could really answer, because laws weren't really written with this in mind, because we weren't expecting to get here so fast. In due time, we will probably have laws regarding AI and copyright. Maybe we'll have a new version of the DMCA, DMCA 2 or something, I don't know. But it opens a very good question, and it's a pretty important question at that, especially seeing as AI keeps getting better and better and better as time goes on. It also begs the question as to how fast are we going to implement laws regarding copyright and AI, especially because legally right now we're kind of taking this precedent of it's too big to fail and we can't stunt its growth, at least not right now. So we have this sort of issue where copyright law isn't really written with AI in mind. Are we going to see copyright law written with AI in mind? It's a good question. Maybe not for a while, because quite frankly, nobody wants to poke the AI bear right now, because it's too important. We're in a literal, like, political, like, technology war with us here and China over there, and we're, like, battling it out to see who gets this technology the best. We're in a arms race in order to see who gets it right the first time. So, I don't even know if we're going to see any laws on this in a while, but I could be wrong. We might. Only time will tell, though. That is about it for today's video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your guys' opinions. Like, comment, subscribe. Take care, you guys, and remember to stay safe out there.